believe that Ted Cruz would compete better among women against Hillary than Donald Trump currently is in the polling.
Meanwhile, Montel Williams is here. He was, of course, the longtime host. Hi, Montel, of the Montel Williams Show. He's a former naval intelligence officer, activist, and political independent who left the Republican Party more than 20 years ago. But guess what, Matt Bai, you're going to be so excited because John Kasich brought Montel back.
I knew I was going to hear about him.
John Kasich brought me back to maybe possibly vote Republican, but I'm not part of the Republican Party. I've not been invited in, and you don't want me in. And the attitude among most of them running is that I'm not a participant. Even though I've got 22 years in the military, even what I do for our nation, no, you can say that, but I think the party really has clearly put some lines in the sand. Under the party that I was part of, under Reagan, Reagan was the guy you showed the clips, Mr. Gorbachev. Tear down this wall. He was a man who tore down walls and built up bonds between Americans. We have Americans running right now who just want to build walls and make sure they tear down the bonds between Americans.
One of them.
So what
well,
was
two of them.
What was it about?
You can say what you want.
What was it about John Kasich that motivated you to at least support this Republican?
The only adult in the room right now. I mean, clearly, when we have people acting below. I was in over in Zurich. And back when people were speculating about whether or not Donald Trump would run, and you could hear the beats of the nasty starting to swell while we were in the middle of the nuclear talks. I was over there trying to get a Marine out of prison that was stuck in Iran, and it was Amir Hekmati. And I worked for a full year over this, trying to do that. And everywhere I went, I kept hearing people around the world talk about how nasty our politics were becoming. I was just in Dubai, and we were a laughingstock in Dubai at the YPO. I hosted, moderated two different lectures that went on. I moderated both of them, panels. And afterwards, people kept coming up to me and asking me questions about what's the matter with America.
So now we know why who you don't like and what you're upset about, but why John Kasich?
Because
other than he's an adult.
The track record.
And do you think he really has a chance?
Well, you know what? Nobody thought Lincoln had a chance, but third round he did. And there's lots, you know, if the crystal balls were all accurate, we wouldn't be here. And not one crystal ball or not one pundit that I've heard speak so far has gotten it right any given 2 days in a row. So I'm going to tell you, you could throw all the science out, come to convention. If it is a broker convention, if Donald Trump doesn't walk in with 1237, and we do what we're supposed to do, and that's adhere to the rules. If we adhere to the rules, all bets are off. I could see a 5 to 6
I sent my crystal ball back to eBay, and I want a refund because it's not working properly.
Do you see any path forward for John Kasich, though?
You're asking me that question? You know the answer to that question. Yes. Look, I will temper it. I do. I take Montel's point. I think if this thing goes to an open convention, there are lots of ways it can go. However, I don't think does John Kasich need to win half the delegates to go in with any chance of winning an open convention? No. But I think he's got to win something more than he's won. It's not enough to win Ohio and come in second in New Hampshire. I think to make that case, you got to win
New York,
California or New Jersey. You got to win a couple of big states. And he hasn't done that, and I don't know what the path for that is. So if the question's a convention, yes. But I think he's got to go into that convention having proven a little bit of viability in states that aren't his own. He hasn't done it yet. You
know, we used to talk about it in the Marine Corps. There's a little joke. It's not a joke, but, you know, you take a little thing, go ping when you pull off the pin for a grenade and you throw it in the room. Ping, right? The ping is what happens when they walk into the convention and it is Rubio and Kasich as a unified ticket. And that walks in, and after the first round, everybody decides that they can do what they choose.
I still think you got to give delegates the cover of having piled up a whole bunch of delegates, having won a couple of. They got to at least have the fig leaf of having won a couple of states.
It doesn't matter.
Fourth, the sixth round.
It's going to be amazing.
I'll be buying the beers. I'll tell you that.
What do you think of this, Kellyanne?
In fairness, John Kasich's been in New York for 3 weeks. He did not go to Colorado to get those delegates at the convention. He did not go to Wyoming, North Dakota, where delegates were up for grabs. So if you want to amass delegates so that you're in a great position, in a better position than Marco Rubio, who has more delegates than John Kasich, and beat him in Arizona, even though he was no longer in the race, then you have to walk into Ohio with more than 150 or 60 delegates that you currently have. There's no indication currently that Marco Rubio would join forces with John Kasich. Just last week, he gave an interview saying he wants the nominee to be conservative, and there's only one left in the race, Ted Cruz. That's Marco Rubio speaking last week.
Crystal balls are crystal balls.
Yesterday,
can I nerd out for a second here? A lot of Republicans that I talk to who do foreign policy, do national security, don't like John Kasich because they see him as a a true budgetary hawk. Now, that appeals to a big swath of the party. But a lot of the national security establishment of the party worries that he would come in and he would not reverse longstanding positions on the budget, and that he would, in fact, not build the military back up with the kind of infusion of cash that they want. Now, you are a military man. Does that worry you at all?
No, because look at the budget that he built up under Bill Clinton. We had a balanced budget, and we paid for everything we needed in the military. Again, John Kasich is a person who understands how to sit down at a table and listen to his advisors and take aboard what they have to say. So I think that when the rubber meets the road, we all know that our military right now is in shambles in several different places, from the VA on down. But John Kasich, I think, is the only one who's going to walk in understanding that it takes a commander-in-chief to work with his officers and leaders to come up with a decision rather than try to dictate. And when we go back to that, let's just start there. I'm sorry. I don't understand any way possible that a military person is going to support a guy who actually lied and got a deferment and wouldn't actually lead once, and now you want to lead the people you're going to send off to die? Not on my watch.
So if Donald Trump ends up being the nominee, could either of you support him?
Yes, absolutely. And if he wants my help, I'll help him beat Hillary or Bernie Sanders, yes. If he stays a Republican.
And what about you, Montel?
Not on my watch.
Why?
He will never be commander-in-chief.
And I don't want Hillary to be.
If you step down and act like you are so hurt that you can't lead, and all the lies about all the personal money that he's given the troops, all the lies that he says on behalf of us, there's no way he would have my support as commander-in-chief.
Would you vote for Hillary Clinton?
Wow, there's no way he'd have my support as commander-in-chief.
Would you vote for Hillary Clinton?
There's no way he'd have my support as commander-in-chief.
Okay, I'm going to stop this broken record.
I got to get.
It's starting to sound like Marco Rubio.
It's going to be that last. It would be that last-minute decision.
Well, but Montel's indicative of many voters who actually may exercise their franchise by not voting. I'm not speaking for Montel, but there are many voters who will say, and they have in the past. There are a lot of the conservative voters who did not vote because Mitt Romney was the nominee. There are many Bernie Sanders voters who say they absolutely will not support Hillary Clinton if she's the nominee. That's probably particularly true of many of the young people who've just organically come out and support Bernie Sanders and are very, just really believe his agenda speaks to them, his message speaks to them. There's no indication that they'll say, you know what, you're right. I forgive Hillary for her corporatist money, her Wall Street speeches, her changing her mind on core issues. So I think certain voters would not vote. And that's usually the calculus that some voters make.
Let me ask actually Olivier and Matt about this, because it's something that we talked about months ago, about how divisive or divisive, I guess either is acceptable, this whole
we could argue about it.
Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton contest has been. Do you think, I mean, he has said he's going to go through the convention. Obviously, you said, Olivier, he's got the money to do so.
Yep.
So at one point, I know Nick Kristof had an interesting quote. He said he thought initially that made him, Bernie Sanders made Hillary Clinton a better candidate. Now he thinks the rhetoric has gotten so poisonous, it's tarnishing both of them. What do you think? You don't think so?
this is not a particularly divisive. People say this every 4 years. There's no historical context to that. Most Democratic campaigns in recent memory have been more divisive than the Sanders-Clinton. What? Because they fight about whether the president's legacy on health care is the right. I mean, this has not been a particularly personal fight. The point of contention is, she too comfortable with Wall Street? Has she given too many speeches? This is all fair game. It's not nothing like what's happened on the
at this point,
Republican
I think
side.
Hillary Clinton put her support behind Barack Obama at this point in the campaign. And if it continues, what do you think will happen?
I don't think that's right.
Later.
I think it was
June.
later than
Really?
that.
Well,
I think,
it was June.
And I think, look, I've said to you before, I think
earlier than the
I
convention.
think when you win the
anyway.
delegates, Bernie Sanders, when you show the support that he's had, you earn the right to run for as long as you want. And I don't think to this point you could make a case that he's hurting the party. Now, there's a couple of caveats to that. If you do start, I watched Bill Bradley in 2000 sort of start to pull his foot off the lever a little bit as it became clear he didn't have the delegates, but he went on longer than that. If you've got that pedal to the floor and you're really trying to hurt the nominee, then a party, I think, has a right to get very angry. If you go to a convention and contest it on the floor, even though you know you can't win, then I think a party has a right to get angry.
It's not completely true, though, Matt, that it's not been divisive and personal. I mean, that Brooklyn debate last week was nasty.
It was nasty. It was contentious.
He called into question her qualifications earlier in the week. She said he's lying about me. His campaign's lying about me.
We've just become so timid about this. I mean, this is not.
Oh, I loved seeing it. Yes, by the way, just for the record, I love seeing them argue.
Democratic politics has put such an emphasis on unity in the last 20 years, right? After the way it was 30, 40 years ago, that we've forgotten what divisiveness actually looks like. Policy differences, sharp language, raising voices. That's political debate. I think all of this is very easily put aside. We have not had, anything that anybody can't come back from.
And the two forces that unite the Democrats going forward once they have a nominee, one is the Republican candidate, and two is Barack Obama, who comes off the sidelines, makes his argument, unites, tries to bring back the coalition, his support, and the rest of it. The only danger zone, I think, in the Democratic primary debate right now is whether some of Bernie's arguments can be recycled by the Republican candidate in the general.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I've heard a lot of those arguments made yet, but if he were to find, if he really were to put the squeeze on, say, the emails, that's something we're going to hear about from the Republicans no matter what. If he really were to endorse some of the probable lines of attack from Republicans, she's anticipated a couple of them, by the way. The reason that she's pushing Libya and Syria more into the president's plate recently is that she's anticipating a general election attack on both of those fronts.
Well, plus he also, made a point of saying that was one of the biggest mistakes of his administration, right?
Right.
Not preparing for that.
So
I mean, he kind of.
But she's not answering all of his arguments. She's just taking some care in picking which ones she really rebuts. So I think you've got forces that are going to unite the Democratic Party that we haven't seen in play yet. And I don't know. I agree with Matt. Historically, this isn't. We should all get off the fainting couch.
I think 2008 and 2004 were uglier.
2008.
Primary
if you talk to anyone who
about
was
the race
in
and the cocaine.
Race.
I mean, they were the Clinton campaign accusing him of using cocaine.
The Puma. How about the Puma movement? Party unity.
And listen, we're waiting for Donald Trump to give a speech here in New York, and Montel. But while we do, I don't know. Is he walking up?
Okay.
There he
is.
is.
Be a part of New York. They're doing the song, New York, New York.
Yeah, here he comes.
We're going to see Omarosa come flying through the.
Yeah, exactly. So this is probably going to take a while. So Montel Williams.
He's not singing this.
Yes.
And Kelly.
I would have gone with Jay-Z,
Thank you
Alicia
both so
Keys.
much for being here. I know that you guys aren't expecting to necessarily sit through Donald Trump's speech tonight, but we really appreciate your coming by. And Montel, before he starts speaking, how can the Republican Party be more inclusive? You said earlier that you didn't think you were welcome in the party. What should they be doing?
Well, I mean, if you listen to the rhetoric that's being the most reported is rhetoric of divisiveness. So there's got to be some sort of outreach from anybody. Literally very funny. I've been at a couple of the earlier debates and literally stopped Mr. Cruz and was going to have a conversation with him, but kind of got moved aside. Now, John Kasich stopped and talked to me for about 20 minutes. So, I mean, there are lots of things that a lot of people have to say that you should not discount me just because of the way I look. And I believe that's what's happening.
Senator Cruz didn't talk to you. Why don't you get a one-on-one meeting with him? I'll help you.
There you go. Look at this.
He won't stop and talk to me either if it makes you feel any better.
And he won't do an interview.
Might be a bald thing.
But but I also would just back up to say, as I've gone around in the last year and a half looking to do some things that I've done with other, like getting the servicemen out, we've had an unbelievable amount of support from Republican senators, people that I've worked with down in Washington, D.C., who've stepped up to the plate immediately and said, Montel, let's go. So it's just interesting. There's certain groups that'll talk to us and certain they won't. And I like to at least be invited to the table.
Well, Montel and Kellyanne, thank you both for coming by.
Katie.
Really appreciate it.
The people of New York.